So here we have another Pictorial review. This was a K7000 that I repaired that I didn't have time to make a video on because at the time all it really needed was a rejuvenation, a cap kit, and a flyback and a rebuild. Nothing really of note, but I figured I'd go ahead and show off what a rejuvenation can do for you because there are some other oddities here regarding this. But as you can see here from the picture, it is complete and it is working, but not without issue. C46, as you can see here, is completely missing. The monitor was operational with this capacitor missing, and I thought that was very odd. And it turns out that it does work without it because it's basically just a redundant filter cap for one of the video inputs. So it can run without it. It's just very odd that it's gone. But you can see that it has a little bit of what looks like leaking electrolyte from the cap, and I don't know if it just rusted and fell off, or corroded and fell off, or someone removed it. But I don't think they removed it because the legs are still sticking through on the other side of the chassis, like it just broke off, or someone pulled it off, or it leaked and fell off. I can't say, but that's all that really is. I just found that odd that it was missing. I've never seen a missing capacitor on a board where the board still operates. But this is the image here that after turning it on and just letting it run for a few minutes, this is the best image that it could get. Well, prior to doing any adjustments. I powered it up and turned it on, let it sit for 10 minutes, and this is what it produced. So obviously it had a lot of problems. But after about, after a few minutes of making some tweaks and adjustments, flyback screen pot, focus, contrast, brightness, RGB pots, everything was much, much better. But the top half of the monitor was blurry compared to the bottom half. So I knew it needed rejuvenation because the colors were very weak. It looks good on the picture, but trust me, you'll see in a minute that it was very weak. So I hooked up the rejuvenator and I was able to zap it back into life. But before we get there, you can see that somebody has already replaced the red drive and green drive pots, the color pots on the neck. Now I don't know if that's because they broke or they quit working, I can't say, but someone has done some work to this chassis, but for the most part it was almost pretty much untouched. And you can see here they also replaced the I say that every time, the shutdown pot. This is the pot that deals with the safety shutdown of the chassis. If it's set wrong, it'll cause the chassis to go into shutdown, where it'll power up for a few seconds and then it'll shut off, that kind of thing. If you haven't experienced that, that's what shutdown is. And this has to be set to a very specific reading. And I'll get to that at the end of the video. So it's actually helpful to me that they've replaced it, because now I can actually adjust it. Usually it's got so much glue on there you can't change it. So fortunately they changed it. I don't know if they were trying to do some troubleshooting, but it helps me out by them replacing it, because now I can adjust it to the proper setting. It was not adjusted properly originally. But here is the emissions. This is the emissions test for all of the color guns before I did anything to it as far as rejuvenation. And you can see that the red emission is pretty much almost dead. The red emission was 0, almost, well, it's 2.1, but for all intents and purposes, it had a good image, but the red emission was very, very weak. Now the green emission was not much better. You can see here it's right on the cusp of the bad mark, right around 5.1. So the green emission was not much better. The blue was only very slightly more than 6.2. So all three color guns were very, very bad as far as emission. So I did a full rejuvenation, and now here's what the red looked like after the rejuvenation. Bam! Way up there at almost 15. So it brought the red gun right back to life. The green gun around 15.1, so pretty much exactly on par with the red color gun. The blue was only about, I don't know, 11 or so, 10.8. It brought the blue back as well, but not as good as red and green. It's still obviously good, but the blue is slightly less than the red and the green, but it'll still work. It'll be good enough for the human eye, you won't notice. So doing the rejuvenation brought this monitor back to life, and wow, what a difference it made. Nice and crystal clear. The top right corner still needed a convergence strip, because the convergence was spot on perfect, except that top right corner. So I'll toss a convergence strip in there later. But you can see here, this is all original settings, original flyback, original caps, original tube, everything like this. This is what I was able to get from all the tweaking of the settings and doing rejuvenation, and it looks fantastic. But I couldn't leave it there because it still needed caps. They were all original, and the flyback was cracked in a number of spots, and it was the white knob flyback. So all that gets redone. It needed reflow and a full rebuild, so that will be shown here momentarily. So here is the entire setup here. Everything original. The chassis, you can see, is pretty dirty, but I have a new flyback, a new cap kit. Yeah, very, very dirty chassis. And when I took it all apart to do the reflow and the cleaning, it cleaned up real nice. So here's the bottom side. Before I did anything to it, you can see that it has a number of pads that are in need of reflow. There's some, it needs cleaned up. There's some heat damage up in the normal area there by the ceramic resistors. It just needs a full rebuild, a good cleaning and a good reflow, and it should come right back to life. Well, it's already working, but you know what I mean. You understand. So here's the flyback. You can see that it's cracked in a number of spots down there by the screen pot, along the left side of it there, along the bottom of it is cracked in a number of spots there. The focus is cracked along the right side. So it's just a ticking time bomb. I can't believe it didn't start arcing already. So here it is, all cleaned up. Basically brand new, right off the factory shelf. So here's all the old caps, including the old filter cap and the old flyback. Here's the bottom side all cleaned up and reflowed and resoldered, ready to go. The big cap across the flyback is a factory mod. We don't mess with that. The cap up there on the left side above the extra ground wire mod. All these mods you see here are all factory mods. You don't ever want to mess with those. And you can see here that our red is nice and bright, and our green is nice and bright, and our blue is nice and bright. And here's the final result. Just, I need to put a couple convergence strips for the top right, but otherwise it is beautiful. Maybe one on the top left. So just an example here of what a good rebuild and a good rejuvenation can do for you. It's remarkable. And a thumbs up on another successful repair. They're not always this easy, but sometimes they are, and it's always rewarding when you can get this stuff done like this. So the B+ is set by the voltage regulator on the K7000. You can't adjust it, but 130 is what it should be, and as you can see, 129.4 is good. And the shutdown pot should be 9.8. And the way you measure it is, you can see that you put the positive lead on the negative side of this diode, right there in front of C58 by the adjustment pot for the shutdown. And the negative, of course, goes to your frame or your ground, and you got 9.82. 9.8 is what you want to set it to. You got 9.82, close enough, so we'll call that good. And there it is, all reinstalled and working perfectly. So I just wanted to share that. Another success story here, and I appreciate you watching. Like, share, and subscribe if you want. And stay tuned for more repairs. Thank you very much.